Hello, all you lovely people, and welcome back to another amazing, fabulous, fantastic video. Today is a book video, and we are talking about, literally already forgot the title, the Brentwood Boys series. It is 8 books. They are baseball romances, which is a perfect time in this, spring to summer weather, obviously. So very excited to dive in and tell you guys all about the Brentwood Boys. Oh, also, I forgot to mention there will be spoilers in this video, so if you've not read it, you can click off this video, read the whole series, and then come back because you'll want to know my thoughts on it. But anyways, the first book is The Locker Room. All of these are by Meghan Quinn, by the way. This was my first time reading Meghan Quinn. I know she has the Not So Meet Cute series, I think is what it's called, or it's like Brothers or something, that went pretty popular on TikTok, and obviously she's just kind of like a well-established, I feel like, romance author. But this was my first foray into her. But so The Locker Room, literally this description, because I was reading the description to remind myself, literally has nothing to do with it. The book is about Knox and Emory, and all of the boys are on the baseball team, and in college in this one, well, in this book, I should say. Basically, Knox is a junior, as is Emory. Emory has just transferred to Brentwood from her previous college because she had a big breakup and a big falling out with her boyfriend, and she kind of was following her boyfriend around. And yeah, and then now she's moved here, and she has her 2 best friends, Dottie and Lindsay, who will be important later. And yeah, and then basically from the beginning, Knox just kind of really likes her, and she's really hesitant and is no, because basically she just got broken up with, or she just broke up with her longtime boyfriend and he cheated on her, and she has all these trust issues, so she's no, we're not gonna be together. And then eventually, of course, they get together, and but in the 80% mark of this book, the biggest thing happened. So he gets drafted his junior year, and instead of staying together and trying to do long distance or doing whatever, Emory just breaks up with him and is this is for the good, this is for the better, you're not going to want to have a girlfriend when you're working really hard, and I'm just going to hold you back. And he's what? No, you'll support me. It'll be hard, but we can get through it. And we should at least try, which I'm yeah, you should at least try. And she's just no, it'll be too painful. So she just breaks up with him, and he's distraught. So then that's at the 80% mark in the book. And it's oh, well, obviously they're going to figure it out and get back together. Nope. Then we have an 8-year time jump. 8 years. They have both been in Chicago for the longest time. He's playing professionally now. She's a librarian, which is what she wanted. And she sees him randomly, and then he's really mad at her for not telling him that she's in Chicago, and she has been this entire time. And so is he. And then they have this big fight, and then they eventually make up. And I was just it was hard because it was at 80% of the book, which is crazy, I feel to do. I'm not saying you can't do a time jump, but 80% is way too late. It was a crazy point. You could have done it way earlier in the book. And then 2, it made the reconnection kind of really stupid to me because it was so quick, because there was only 20% of the book left, and that was from not even the time jump. The time jump probably happened at 85% or something. So it was did not leave a lot of room for tension and then resolving the issue. So it was literally making a conflict in the last third of the book to then have to resolve it in that time too, and it just was weird. And then also it didn't make sense to me because we got a sneak peek at the other characters, which was weird to me because this was more something I feel you would do to a later book in the series where they've already had the established the characters and their couples, so it could be a sneak peek almost. But instead it was we saw Knox in college, and he has his friends, whatever, who will be the next books, and then Carson's the next book. So we have Carson in the beginning of this book, and then we have Carson 8 years later, and we see a sneak peek of that. And Holt is a good example, one of his other friends, and we see example, they start talking about his kids, and I'm I don't even know he has kids. I don't even know his story yet. Why are we already talking about his kids? That's so weird to me. So it was not my favorite. It was it just was weird. But I gave it a 3.5 because I still liked the characters, and I felt like it was setting up like a good thing, but it was lacking in a lot of the stuff, which only gave it a 3.5. Next, we have the dugout, and this is between Carson, who I was just talking about, and Millie. This is the senior year of college. So Carson got hurt his junior year, so he has to stay until his senior year, and he's kind of like really down and out and like doing poorly in his hitting because of like getting hurt the last year, and like his two best friends are gone, Knox and Holt. So he's really like sad about that, and is kind of just like angry at the world kind of vibes. And then Millie is another student there, and she is like a baseball wizard. She has three older brothers who all like play baseball, not currently. One's a professional, but the other two aren't. And but she's just like loves baseball, knows everything about it, knows like is really good at coaching baseball. So basically she kind of like approaches him, and they kind of don't hit it off at first because like he's being kind of like rude and arrogant, and then it slowly starts to fade and he feels bad that he's being like that to her. So then they start connecting more, and then he eventually asks her to help him work on his swing, and then she does, and it helps him, and then they start like liking each other more. And then this whole time is like Millie's supposed to be like a tomboy and like very like not super girly girl, and like she only has guy friends and like all of these things, so she doesn't feel like desirable romantically, and she doesn't feel like she could ever get someone like Carson, who's like the big guy on campus and everything. Which it was fine. I didn't love at sometimes, because sometimes it's hard just like reading those books where it's like the main obstacle is just that character's like self like hatred. Like I know it's relatable in some aspects, but in some aspects it's also like hard to read. So it wasn't like my ultimate favorite, but it wasn't also like my least favorite. She is kind of like the quirky girl though, which I don't like. It's so annoying when it's like she's not like other girls. Like it wasn't exactly those vibes, but it was kind of cringy at times. But I really liked Carson. He was really sweet to her, and like it was this very, I think they were a very sweet couple, and they had like moments where she was like, I've just always wanted someone to like hold my hand, and like I feel like that was really cute. So I liked those parts of it. This also had a time jump. It was not as long. I think it was like 3 or 4 years, but still like, what? Like, why are we doing this exact same thing? And it was exactly like the first book of it was like 80% in, time jump, and it was like, what's going on? But again, it wasn't like awful. Theirs was different though, because it wasn't, he broke up with her, and it's because his dad dies, and then he's like, the last thing he's promised his dad was that like he was gonna make it in the majors. So like he's just like, I can't have any distractions. Millie's a distraction. So he like dumps her, and then like she can't get through to him, and then they have like a break between, and then once he starts getting better, I think it's like 2 years, once he starts getting better, when he first gets called up to the majors, then he's like, wait, I messed this all up, like I need Millie, and then they get back together. So I gave this a 2.5. It was like just kind of this boring read. It wasn't like a bad read, that's why I got like a 2.5, but it just like wasn't super interesting to me. The next book is The Lineup, and who do you think the couple would be? Obviously the three main guys of the first book, like Knox was the first guy, and his two best friends were Carson, who just had the last book, and Holt, who you would think would be the third. No, Holt's book instead is the seventh book. I'll get into that more later, but that makes no sense to me. That's part of the reason I'm like, I'll talk about it, but there needs to be shifting happening in the way these books came out. It doesn't make any sense to me. But this one is about Jason, who we've not talked about at all yet, and Dottie, who we have talked about. She was Emory's friend from the first book, if you remember. Jason is also from Brentwood, but this is when he's already a professional. So like whatever, we see him a little bit in the second book, like not much of Carson's book, but like a little bit. But basically the thing for this is Jason is a professional, and he is just moved to Chicago. He got traded, and he has this foundation called The Lineup, and it's for like children with disabilities like still being equal in sports and like having resources in sports, because his brother has a disability, and he was able to play baseball with him in high school, and it was a great story, amazing. And the setup is that Dottie is like a rich woman. She is like the vice president or something of her dad's company, but don't worry, she got there on her own. They keep saying that during the book. They're like, it wasn't nepotism, she got there on her own. I'm like, yeah, if it wasn't nepotism, you wouldn't have to say it so much. Like, who are you proving anything to? I didn't say anything. but then you keep saying like she got there with hard work, which I'm not denying, but when you say it too many times, like it's like, but did you? Because why are you being so insecure about it? Kind of, um but she's really rich, and she's always had like a crush on Jason. So Lindsay and Emory, the two friends from the first book, kind of tease her about it. And eventually he's like auctioning off like a date with him or whatever for his foundation. And she proceeds to donate $10,000, and she ends up winning it. And then he's like, oh my God, wait, I know you. Like, this is so weird. And then she's super embarrassed because she didn't mean to do the money. So it's like a whole thing. And she like just turns him away the whole time and is like, no, I don't want you, and all this stuff. And he's like the like goofy guy, which I do not love. That is just like can't be serious, is just constantly goofing off, like, and not even just like goofing off, is like weird. And it's basically Quirky Boy, if we're being honest here, which I do not love. And yeah, and then they basically that's it. That's the whole book. It's pretty boring. It got 2 stars for me just because, again, it's just really boring. Like, it's not bad, I guess, just like nothing happens. Like, I was bored throughout the whole book. I wanted their book to be over. I did not like their book at all. The 4th book, we are jumping to Cory Potter, who is Millie's of Carson and Millie older brother. Remember I said she had a brother that played professionally. This is this brother. It's The Trade. Did I say it was The Trade? That's the book it's called. But basically in this, it is Cory and Natalie, and Cory just got traded to, it's basically like the White Sox. Like, half of them are on the White Sox and half of them are on the Cubs because they're all in Chicago, and it's like whatever. But he got traded to the White Sox, and no one likes him. Like, none of the fans, like none of the guys really like him that much, and he's having like a really hard time. And that's like escalated a lot throughout the book. And then Natalie is Jason of the just last book's sister. And the whole like kind of conflict for like, you think most of the book is that she was married and then she gets divorced, but Cory like starts having feelings for her, and then he talks to Millie about it, and then Millie's like, oh my God, wait, she's married, like you can't have these feelings for her. So then like it's like the tension of like he doesn't think he can have her. That does not last long at all. I mean, like, literally they go on vacation and they like have to share a room. It is one bed trope, and they share a room, and then like instantly he just acts point blank like, oh, are you still married? And she's like, no. And then he's like, oh. And he's like, but it's like, oh, okay, so like that's what I just have problems with these books. It's like every time there's tension, I feel like she gets rid of the tension like instantly, and it's like, wait, I thought that was what the tension was in the book, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's not anymore, which is weird. But yeah, again, this book is just kind of like boring. They break up because Cory's having like such issues with his team and like everyone hating him basically, and he's having just like a mental health crisis basically. And I mean, he was lashing out and stuff, so like this breakup I don't find as big of an issue, just because like it makes more sense to me why this happened, because he was like really going through it. I did kind of hate at the end where like he won everyone over by like doing the bare minimum. Like he literally was just like blank off, and then they were like, we respect you now, and I'm like, oh well, okay. But yet again, this book only got 2 stars for me. Honestly, I liked the setup of like the books. They just didn't deliver with like what I wanted. Like, again, like the tension was taken away too early. Next is The Change Up, and we have Maddox, who I've not really talked about. He's only in the book before this. He is a rebel, like the head rebel, and or the White Sox basically. Allegedly. He is like the head guy. Like everyone loves him. He's like the main star of that team. And then Kinsley is the girl, and this is a childhood friends to lovers, which is not my go-to, but it's still fun sometimes. Basically the setup is Kinsley wants to get this job in Chicago, but she can't afford to move right then, so he's like, just move in with me. So then they move in together, and it's like a 1-bedroom apartment, and then they've always been best friends, and they've never wanted more, and then both of them kind of separately start wanting more, and then they're like, oh my God, but the other person doesn't want more, and then it's like they finally like start having more, and then this a stupid thing happens on his birthday, and he like shuts her out, and then she's all upset and she moves away, and then blah 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 blah. Yeah, so it was fine. I had high hopes for this book because I usually like, he was like the like bad boy, like I usually like bad boy romances like that. But I will say I don't find her character like that annoying. The reviews I've seen, like everyone hates her character. She is like an eco queen warrior, like she's like very environmentally friendly, which I think's cool. I'm totally for that. I mean, like she does more than like I would do, but like I still think that's cool. I've never seen like a character like that. I think that's a cool representation. um I just kind of more had issues with like, again, the tension kind of was taken away early. Like they were both like, oh my god, does the other person feel the same way? And then it was literally like, oh, they do. And then they were just like together. And I was like, why can't this happen later in the book? Like build up the tension even more to the point where we're like, please, and then do it. Like I feel like that's what works better, but I just felt like the tension in all these books was released way too early. So you guessed it, it's another 2 stars for me. Again, it's just like was boring. It had a good setup and I feel like pretty good characters, and it just like let me down with both the tension and the conflict. Like the conflict just being so utterly stupid and ridiculous. Next we have the setup, which is Lincoln and Indy. Lincoln plays on the rebels, and we've kind of heard from him, but this one, part of the reason why these books don't make sense of how they came out to me, we're going back to college. We're going back in time. Because that makes sense. Because he is from Brentwood, so we're like going back to his college Brentwood days. Why? I don't know. I can't tell you. But Indy is a soccer player also at Brentwood. And basically the whole thing is that they get set up by their moms and they like want them to both like settle down, I guess. I'm like, what? They're like juniors in college, but okay. And they set them up and they're both mad about it and are like, I don't need someone. But then they both like kind of hit it off and they're like, wait, you're like really cool. So they start basically just hanging out and they become like really good friends. And Indy is very adamant that like she does not want to have a relationship with anyone. I don't really know why. She just like doesn't really want to. Like she just doesn't want the distraction and doesn't want that. I do like that she was like a soccer person, like good at soccer. Like I love when it's like both athletes or like the woman who's like also doing athletic things, you know? Like I always find that fun. Um but yeah, so that's the setup, and they basically are friends with benefits. Basically, it's technically friends to lovers, but I'm like only kind of, because they kind of become friends with benefits like right away, I feel like. So, but they become friends with benefits and they just continually like are hooking up all the time, but then they're like, wait, but like don't get attached to me because I can never let your friendship go. And then he's being drafted and then she's really sad. And then he's like, well, we can still like be friends and hang out. And she's like, yeah, of course. But then like she kind of like drops him and is like, no. And then they basically just like don't talk. And guess what? It's another time jump. It's another time jump. Why? I don't know. I'm going crazy at this point. Why is there a time jump? But there is. Again, I don't think it's like, I think it's like 4 years, maybe longer than that, maybe like 6 years. Don't really know. But it's basically like they like lost their way. Like they are not really friends anymore. They haven't talked in like a year at this point. And then she moves to Chicago, so they're in the same city. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then like they finally like work out their issues. And then they're like, I like you. And she's like, oh my god, you like me? I like you. And then they're like together. So classic of like, they just both won't admit their like feelings for each other, which is kind of annoying, but like I guess not the most annoying thing. I gave it a 3.25, which is good considering the rest of these books I've been giving like 2, so that's like good for it, you know. We are on book 7, so you know what that means. It is finally Holt's book for some I don't understand reason, but it's called The Strikeout and it's Holt and Harmony. I did not like this book. A lot of tropes that I don't like. It's insta love. No, thank you. It's also technically like accidental pregnancy, but like I think the worst it's ever been written. Like I love accidental pregnancy and I know that's a hot take, but like this was the worst written accidental pregnancy I think I've ever read. And I'm not even joking. I've read like some really bad ones. Like this is awful. Basically the story is like Harmony works at the like diner near campus, and one night like the boys, Knox, Carson, Jason and Holt come in and are like drunk and goofing off, and order, and she's all annoyed because she like hates student athletes because she's like poor and she has to work really hard to get through college, and then like they're already like getting full scholarships and stuff, and then Holt also is on top of that like super rich, so she like extra hates Holt because of that. But it dies pretty quickly, and basically he just starts stalking her, and I'll be honest, that's basically what he does, because he like falls in love that night because like she gives him attitude or like gives it back to him, which I'm like, literally she was being mean to you and also saying like I'm not interested at all. Like he said something about like wanting to, like Carson said like, oh, he wants your number or something, and she was like, no, like I don't want that. So it's like, maybe let's listen to women, maybe let's listen to women and listen to what they're saying, not what you think they're saying. But whatever. Um, but we get to like him and her, like he literally stalks her Instagram and figures out she's gonna be at the beach, then goes to the beach and then like refuses to leave. Like he like sets his towel down right next to them, and then she's like, can you leave? And he's like, no. And he stays there the entire day bugging her, basically like the entire time. She's like annoyed beyond belief, and he's just like, no, you're gonna love me at the end of it. Like, and then her friend just like keeps pushing him on her, and I'm like, I hate this was so weird. And then eventually she gives in, and then they start like dating, and like Holt's really nice, and Holt gives her all of these opportunities. Like he gets her an internship that with his dad's company that like she would have never gotten, and she was upset about that, and I was like, yeah, I would be upset about that too. And he was like, why would you be upset? And like everyone paints her for being weird, for not wanting a handout, and I'm like, yeah, I know it's not like a handout, but I would feel weird. They were dating like 2 weeks. I would feel very weird. I feel very weird about that. And then it is accidental pregnancy, but literally they, do whatever, and then they're going to her mom's house, and then it literally just says, it's like breaks, and it's like, yeah, we're pregnant, we have to tell them, we found out the other day. And I was like, so we didn't get to see the scene of her finding out she's pregnant unexpectedly, him finding out she's pregnant unexpectedly, any of that, any of the discourse, any of the problems, any of the anything. Instead, we're just jumping to her being like, oh yeah, and by the way, we're pregnant. You're taking out all of the best parts of accidental pregnancy. To me, I want those moments. I want those real moments of finding out and being like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, and like, oh, I just took them out. Like, it didn't make any sense. I was like, why'd you even put accidental pregnancy in here if you're not even going to like talk about the accidental pregnancy? Ah. But then basically into their junior year, and Holt's like, it's fine. They've also only been dating like 3 months at this point, I want to say. And because it's literally, they start dating that summer, and then this is like they're coming home for Thanksgiving. So this is quick turnaround, guys, that they've started dating and then gotten pregnant. Whew. And then, which is fine, but just like that's hard. And then basically he's being drafted, and then she's like gonna follow him, and then he starts having all this anxiety because he's like, it's a lot. That's a lot. Like becoming a father at the age of like what, 21? Unexpectedly with a girl you've known for like 3 months. That's really hard. And he has like heart problems, so it's like all these health issues, blah, 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 blah. Boring. And we like don't even get to see the baby, which is like the other fun part of accidental pregnancies. So guess what this one got? Shocker, 2 stars. I see that that's just like kind of what my baseline for is when I don't enjoy the book, but it's not like offensive to me. I give it 2 stars. Like, am I gonna read it again? No. But is it like making me like mad? No. So like, last but not least, we have the perfect catch, which is Walker and Kate. Walker, we've not talked about because he doesn't belong. His book doesn't belong in this place. But basically, he works with Jason. Yeah, Jason of like book 3 on the lineup. He works with him in the lineup, and he's in like book 3 like with Jason. That's literally the only book he's in, but somehow he is the 8th book, whatever. But he's like the bad boy of like allegedly the Cubs, aka the Bobbies. So he doesn't really like fit the bill of like what a classic Bobby would be or whatever. So he has to clean up his image basically, or else he might get traded, and he doesn't want to get traded. So he goes with like the PR person basically, and the PR person is Kate, and he's really mean. It's definitely like Grumpy Sunshine, but like ish. He's really grumpy and she's very sunshine, but like I say ish because it's just like it only works ish to me if that makes sense. But yeah, they basically just like have this tension, and then she can't be with a player that's like against like because she works for the Bobbies or whatever. So again, problem with tension, because 20%, I think, literally through the book, they admit their feelings for each other. And not even just like lust, they admit that they like really, really like each other. And I'm like, so why do I read? Why do I read 80% more of this book when you've already admitted your feelings? I know you're not together yet, but like you took out the tension. How much better would it be if it was like kind of an enemies to lovers, classic grumpy sunshine slow burn, where it's like you see moments where they're like, he's really sweet to her and vice versa, but you're like not sure if she's reading into it or if it's more, and like all of this tension. And then like at the 80% mark, that's when they get together. Like, oh, it just angers me because she has good setups to all these books. She just like, I feel like fumbles it and like takes it and like makes it not as good as it could be. And it's annoying because like I like the characters and again, I like the plot, but like she takes away the tension so early. And basically the same thing happens with like Walker and Kate, where they're just like, they can't get together because of their job, and then it magically gets fixed of like she gets this amazing job offer that's 5 times her salary. I was like, okay, yeah, let's be real here. And then they get back together and it's like, woohoo! One other thing that irks me so bad is the first book is called The Locker Room. And it's because there's this like belief, the superstition that if you canoodle with your woman in the locker room, then you are going to be married within 4 years. That is like the thing. And that's what the first book is like. That's what the description of the first book is about. Literally the only couple of all of these that canoodles is Holt and Harmony. It's like, why do we have this setup if they're the only ones that do? That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense to me. And why is the first book called The Locker Room when Holt and Harmony's honestly should be called The Locker Room? But not even, because it doesn't even have like anything to do with anything. It's just like a superstition that's in the background. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, thank you. Okay, so I have issues with obviously the tension in a lot of these books, and then like the I don't know, the tension and then the conflict being like the tension being lost at like 20% of the book in each of them, and then the conflict kind of starting at like 80% of the book was really rough for me for all of these. But again, I want to talk about the reading order because it just does not make any sense to me. So I'm going to show you the order that I think it should be in. So the first book, keep it, Knox and Emory, that's fine. The next one, Carson and Millie, keep it, that's fine. Next should be Holt and Harmony, because those were the 3 main guys. And also, I forgot to say, Holt's book is like when they're in college. So it's like going back and seeing Carson and Knox when they're in college. And it's like, why are we doing this? Why would we not just put Holt's book there? So Holt's book should be the 3rd book. I'm fine with then Jason's book being the 4th book. And then this is where like I would technically put, after Jason's book, I would put Walker's book, because the only time we see Walker is in Jason's book. So Walker should be after Jason, you know? And then after Walker could be Cory's book, because at the same time, like, because they all play for the same team. So, well, I guess they don't. Actually, yeah, wait, Walker and Cory play for different teams. But I still think that would make more sense. And then the Cory would lead into Maddox's book, because Maddox plays for the same team as Cory. So that makes sense. And then Lincoln's book would be the last book, and Lincoln and Maddox are friends and are in each other's books. So that makes eons more sense to me. Basically, you need to move Walker's book and you need to move Holt's book, because they don't make any sense where they are, whatever. And then also another issue I have, Lindsay. Of the 3 girls, Emory, Dottie, and Lindsay is the only one that doesn't get a book. And I don't know why she doesn't get a book, because I think her book would be good, because she has a son and she's a single mother. I feel like that would be and she's literally like a teacher. I'm like, I feel like that would be a good setup of like all of her friends are married to baseball players, and then she gets to like, but then she's like, but I could never because I'm a single mother or whatever, and then have a single mother trope. Like, I feel like that would have been so good, and I would feel like it would have fit. I thought Walker was going to end up with Lindsay. I feel like Walker should have ended up with Lindsay. Walker, who's like the bad boy and everyone like doesn't see the soft side of him, he should have ended up with Lindsay. That would have made so much more sense to me, and such a better book. So like that. So like these books, like I said, weren't bad. They were just boring, and like they had so much potential, and they had good characters, they had good storylines, they had like whatever. It just like didn't work. It just felt like this was an amateur author, if I'm being honest. Like I just didn't really understand it. So it's hard because I didn't dislike it. I was just bored throughout a lot of it. But would I still recommend it? Yeah, I still think it's kind of fun. And we don't have enough baseball books. I feel like there's just like literally, quite literally, like not a lot of romance books that are baseball books, which I quite like. So I feel like it's fun in that regard. Would I skip some of them? Maybe. But also it's like books I like might be like different than the books that you like. So I would still give them all a fair shake. I would say it doesn't really matter, honestly, like what order you read them in because they're in the wrong order in my eyes. So do what you want with that. But it was fun and it was like a nice little sports romance breather for a little bit. Again, not my favorite. There's definitely way better sports romances that do like way better job of this, but it's not like the absolute worst I've read either. So take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, this was very fun. Like I said, it was a good start to like my spring summer reading was just having like a bunch of books to read in order, like a series like this, and then it being baseball because that's starting now and like having a fun time and stuff now. Um, so yeah, thank you for coming along and listening to me rant for however long this video is, probably like 40 minutes or something crazy. Thank you for watching and listening to me. You are wonderful, beautiful, kind, sweet, smart, and funny. And I hope someone told you today. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.